Yeah, I have a message for you from one of our listeners. He has a question, too, that I don't have on my list yet. I need to work on that. So this is Ray Hamilton. He says...
you got Ray.
Tell Silent Mike I agree with him on Regina's. I've been trying to recreate that pie. I'm from San Jose.
Recreate it at home? You
Yeah.
making us a pie? Maybe we start a restaurant, little buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Regina's is amazing.
I'm all about doing some kind of investment here in something sometime soon.
On air or off air?
We're on air.
Oh, so I got secrets.
Okay, well we'll talk off air then. Bum bum bum.
I don't have secrets. I mean, I have tons of secrets. It's like I said, my life hits me, man. When I'm freaking trying to surf the through life. I'm trying to retire, and then a bunch of things blow up, and now I'm fucking busy as shit.
Well, it always seems to happen that you don't like with your phone. Your phone, you might not hear anything from anybody. It might not actually ring for over a month. Like ring for a month. And then suddenly...
Yeah, I won't shut up.
Yeah, you got to talk to people on the phone.
Yeah, and it's all good things.
Right.
But it's just more things. And
more, yeah.
And I'm trying to ride off to the sunset.
I don't think that's going to happen yet.
I know. I had a goal to retire at 35.
You might have to hustle.
I'm working.
To get there.
Yeah, we're going crazy. We'll see. Maybe if you guys just download this thing, give me a rating and review. Freaking tell your friends, your mom, your sister, so I can retire. Help your boy out.
He won't retire from this, though. He's going to retire.
If you guys do that for me, I'll retire from everything else but this.
We'll just keep doing this thing until we run out of topics.
I think we can.
I don't think there's any... I don't know.
I was just listening to Joe Budden, who, it's probably the biggest podcast on Spotify.
Really?
Yeah.
We're growing on Spotify, but we ain't the biggest anything.
No, he's literally the biggest. I think he's Spotify exclusive. Sorry to my iTunes people, but rapper from the early 2000s, late 2000s. Can you say late 2000s? I don't know how to differentiate it. 2010. I'm not talking 2090.
Yeah.
2010.
The late aughts.
Yeah, those. So early 2000s to 2010s. Then later in the Slaughterhouse rap group with Eminem. Pretty non-influential rapper, to be honest. Didn't really make a huge statement on the game, although lyrically...
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, he's very gifted lyrically.
Yeah.
He's a little old-school New York cat, in New Jersey, I guess, to be specific. Then he got a chance because he's really hard-headed and very verbal. He got a chance on a complex hip-hop talk show on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know. I caught on to it, and I guess I caught on to it early, but I didn't know I caught on to it early, and I started watching it almost every day. And they just cover hip-hop, beefs, raps, albums. They bring up random questions like what's best album in 2000 to 2005 or whatever.
Right.
Most underdog rapper from 2010 to 2015, stuff like that, let alone the trending topics. But I started watching it, and I guess it was early. I thought it had been going on forever and just got popular, but it was new.
Those exclusive ones are not very old.
Not very old, and then it didn't make it very long because he wasn't getting paid. And so when his contract was up, he tried to get more money, and they didn't do this. And then they tried another host. They had two hosts, or the host was Nadolsky, and then they had two, I guess, co-hosts or two guys on there. And he didn't do it. They tried another one, and then I think the show's just over. I haven't even heard about it. But it like hit hip-hop culture with a big punch when it did come out. And then he had a podcast, I guess, during that time for 2 or 3 years, which also didn't hit. It did okay, but then it really hit, obviously, when his YouTube took off, because those videos were multiple times a week and getting millions of downloads. Yeah, because they had inside sources. I mean, it's perfect. They have inside sources. They were in the industry, and he's like friends with people like Eminem, right? So he has an insight that other people don't have, let alone it's complex. So then they have production value, and they can get different rappers on the show, et cetera, et cetera. Point being, I was listening to one of his podcasts because I just drove back from LA, and they did like their 225th episode or something, and it's basically just him and like 2 or 3 of his best friends, and he was just like saying like, yeah, man, we gotta like congratulate ourselves. We never look about how much podcasting we did and how maybe this helped people, and hopefully it's something, a little library down the road that can make an effect, and blah blah blah. And he's like, and then he's like, my advice to podcasters, and this stuff you and I always talk about and stuff that we literally just do, but he was like, yeah, like sometimes you gotta go for a while with no downloads. Sometimes you gotta go for a while and pay for your own production. Sometimes you got to
Yeah.
go for a while. And I think he went 4 or 5 years, he said, until they all started making money. All the other guys, literally just until this year, his co-hosts, I think he had some rap money, and even Complex money to at least live.
Mm-hmm.
But his co-hosts were interns or whatever at record labels and stuff like that. They were in the music industry, but they had real jobs. They literally just now quit their job because the podcast was successful enough. So
Wow.
5 years down the road, a little bit of hustle, a little bit of grind, and I think they were paying their own production. They were paying their own everything, which is not uncommon. But it shows you that they even had arguably a head start. This guy's a famous rapper, and you still had to really work and kind of grind out to the top. So props to anyone out there trying to make content or trying to do what they love to do, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And he was talking about faith, and he's like, you got to have confidence and faith in your project that you have to do, because you're going to have to do it for a long time for free. And if you don't do it for a long time for free, you're never going to make it. You're never just going to do 10 episodes and be number one on Spotify. You're never going to be, even 100 episodes in and potentially still have to pay for your own way or make no money. If you don't have faith and you're not loving what you're doing, you have zero chance. So props to all you guys. Keep going. It's not always fun or easy. Jim and I have been through it through multiple channels, multiple areas, different mediums, et cetera, et cetera. Even my Twitch, I have fun on there, but it's fucking hard. This thing isn't making any money yet, and we're new, but you know what I mean? It's just how it goes. I did a podcast with Omar. We just did our taxes, and Omar and I are joking, but it's almost embarrassing how much money we spent on that podcast that didn't go anywhere. Or it did great, and people loved it, and we had a lot of fun, but it didn't make any money. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
So it's not always a walk in the park like people think. Oh man, they're Instagram famous. They must be billionaires. It doesn't always work that way.
No, it doesn't always work that way. And you look at the more traditional entertainment industry. It's the same thing where some people create a show and it'll be really successful, and then the next time that they're out, and the quality of the show is the same as what they did before, or better, or whatever. It just doesn't necessarily strike with the audience the same way.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like stand-up comedy, where those guys are doing free shows or getting paid $100 a night for decades, maybe going to local shows, traveling on their own, driving their own car, and then eventually they start to pack a house in a little comedy club, then they pack a house in a tiny theater, and then Netflix talks to them or whatever. But before that, they're definitely working a job, and making no money and just focusing in on their own production and their own skill and their own product, basically, to be able to sell themselves. And that's similar to podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that the real trick is, unless you know that you have a really good shot at making something happen, that you have to keep the budget low from at the beginning, and just grind out the content. Yeah, and do multiple things at once. Yeah, something make a little money, something make a little money, something make a little money, and then maybe something that makes no money, and then just push all four of them. Yeah, we're in that point in the economic history of the United States where doing just one thing is not what most people are.
That's hard. Who
are successful are doing.
Yeah, one or two. How many people? I was talking with my buddies about this, and maybe it's just because our type of parents. And you're fairly similar with your history, where you probably had multiple jobs, but you didn't you only U-turned careers maybe once or twice. Where I feel like nowadays people are U-turning every couple of years. I was a nurse from 20 to 25, and then I got into marketing from 25 to 30, and then from 30 to 35 I went to the Peace Corps, and then from 40, now it's every week people are doing different shit, moving around or doing things unrelated to their degrees, where and having multiple jobs to make a living, or the living they want to live, where I feel like obviously my parents were born, I guess, 50s, 60s, grew up 70s, 80s, 90s, and my dad had 2 jobs, and my mom, beyond the McDonald's and college or whatever, 2 careers, I guess.
2 careers, yeah.
And I think my mom really career only had 1.
I did insurance marketing. I did consulting, publications for consulting. I did health insurance marketing.
Yeah.
I did consulting, broader, just consulting, and then media.
Yeah. So 3, I guess, because 2 of them are at least same ballpark.
Yeah, going back and forth.
Yeah. And even my dad's were 2 big companies, but at the end of the day, he did sales.
I feel like we're about to do the beginning of a totally different episode than the one we're doing now. But one thing that I will tell you is that, growing up, I was always told, be good at a lot of things. my dad was he was a mechanic, but he was good at a kind of broad spectrum of things. And I have to tell you, that is maybe not the way to get paid. It's the way to always be busy, but it's not necessarily the way to get paid. Getting actually excellent at a few things is kind of the way to get paid.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it depends on what route you want to go. I would say your dad's advice would probably work very well in kind of a corporate structure, to be honest. Like, oh, Jim's really good at writing, but Jim's also creative enough to come up with a marketing scheme, and Jim's also creative enough or good enough leader to lead the management. Like, that'll work. Like, oh, Jim has these tools. We can plug him in these positions. But if you're trying to do more entrepreneurial world, or maybe what we're doing, I think it's be a master of one or two. Like, if I had to write down my skill set, like, I think I'm a decent leader. I think I have some decent marketing and branding skills, and I know a lot about strength and conditioning. And this is what I bring to whatever it is. And then for me, luckily, because I am my own boss, I hire the team around me. And so you're building your own team. And my team members, actually, even though it's the smallest corporate setting, it's not corporate, the smallest business setting, my team members are actually master of many, or jack of all trades.
Like that's the thing.
Like Connor does our Instagram, he does the media, and like his main thing's media, but he's resourceful. Like, if I tell him, like, yo, bro, I got to do whatever, he'll Google and figure it out. And same with this other kid. Shout out to my boy Matt. Matt's like the most resourceful, hardworking kid I know. I couldn't tell you what Matt's real skills are. Like, he is our like a marketing kid, and he's good at writing, but like, it's just like I text Matt whatever I need, and he finds a way to do it well. Like, he's just resourceful as shit. That's his skill, is being resourceful as shit.
I can understand that. Yeah, no, I've been that guy, and I have to tell you, it is hard to break out of that role. Yeah, that's the thing, because I think unless you're demonstrating a whole lot of leadership skills at the same time, it's hard. It's hard to break out of that.
Yeah, happens.
Well, anyway, let's move on.
There's our life talk.
Yeah, we're gonna split that off, and that's gonna be a separate episode, I think.
Yeah, it could be.
At least maybe on YouTube. Maybe make that a separate YouTube episode, because it feels.
Go follow us on Instagram, 50% Facts, and let us know. We're thinking about doing 2 episodes a week. We're debating on doing kind of just a hosts only episode where we either talk about life or a specific topic that we're more comfortable with answering with you guys, whether it's strength and conditioning, maybe marketing, maybe starting a podcast, things that we are very familiar with over the last 10, 20, 30 years. And then also every Wednesday was obviously the normal format where we're talking to a professional and talking to an expert. So go to Instagram or our Twitters, the Jim McD, Jim McD 123.
Yeah, the Jim McD.
The Jim McD on Twitter, and Silent Mike with 2 Ks on Twitter. And tweet us, let us know if you'd like 2 episodes. One, maybe slightly more casual and slightly different format, just hosts only. And then obviously we're always keeping this Wednesday format where we talk about a specific question, give you our nonsense, and then we can bring an expert in to answer it.
And the question that we're going to talk about right now is, this is something that's always bugged me, and it's always bugged me in the same way that, when you see a mattress or a pillow or whatever, it says, please don't remove this tag under penalty of law.
On a pillow?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. That shows you how I don't read things.
Yeah. Well, mattresses, pillows, all that, they say that.
On law?
Yeah. Under penalty of law. Well, and it turns out that what that really means is before it's sold. Don't take it off before it's sold. But most people don't it doesn't say that. Most people don't realize it. So in a similar fashion, a lot of times when you see or when you read an article about basically a mainstream magazine or newspaper or whatever, or website, when they talk about a diet, talking about a fitness a strategy or whatever, it'll say always consult a doctor or physician before starting any exercise or diet program. And I want to know why that is. Like, why can't you just start?
Yeah, or
what are you trying to measure if you go to the doctor? Yeah. What are they looking for?
Or these people on the internet, or in real life, Weight Watchers probably, or these people that are carnivore or keto or flexible dieting or vegan or vegetarian. All these people back up all their arguments saying, "Look at my improved blood work. This improves your blood work. This improves your health. This improves blah, blah," but they never tell you what the fuck that is.
They don't understand the point of it. They understand the what the improvement means. What kind of scale is that improvement on? Like,
and what is that? And what does improved really mean? Like, say my stuff does improve. Does that mean I'm living 80 years instead of 60?
Yeah.
Or does that just mean I'm not going to have a heart attack right now? Or it just lowers the chance of me dying right now?
Or does nobody know?
Nobody fucking knows, but hopefully our guest knows.
Yeah, hopefully he's going to have some insight into this. But
yeah, I don't know. I know LDL, cholesterol, all those kind of things. Yeah. How much fat? Yeah, cholesterol, fat in your blood is a big deal.
Blood sugar. How
much sugar's popping around? Glucose is that not only obviously what we eat and digest and use for energy, but how much of it's floating around in your blood, which can make you pre-diabetic. Blood pressure itself, what your blood pressure is at. I think all that involved.
Resting heart rate. Maybe?
Resting heart rate, I think, probably is highly involved. And then even health markers. Like I got health insurance, and I obviously got life insurance. Mm-hmm. And so when you did that, they did a billion tests to make sure that they don't charge you $1 billion and that you're not going to die tomorrow. How much fat you're carrying. Mm-hmm. They didn't do a body fat percentage in general, but they just measured you, right? So how much fat tissue you have on you has to do with your health markers, I'd imagine, because all the other episodes we've talked to, every nutritionist, doctor, et cetera, tells us that you start to lose weight and carry less body fat, and you're probably going to reverse a lot of diseases or chances of those diseases.
Everything's suddenly supposed to be better.
Yeah. All these motherfuckers out there, too, always talk about inflammation. I wonder if a regular doctor can even measure that. Yeah,
what are the markers for inflammation, and how do you know that they're better? This is another one of those passing facts that people on a ketogenic diet, the first 6 months or so, their blood markers get much, much better.
Right,
and then after that, they may not continue to be better. And that's a good question.
Which I've heard from other counter keto people is just that they drop weight in the first 6 months, and dropping any kind of weight improves those markers. But I wonder if there is something to what you're actually eating. Same with the flexible dieting. On the opposite, I wonder if you can get a good amount of, because when we talk about dieting or whatever, and you and I in our space or on my YouTube, et cetera, we're talking about how to lose weight or how to perform. Right. We're not, because I don't know how to teach people how to live to 120. That's not in my repertoire. But I wonder if you can do a flexible dieting type style diet where you're eating majority of whole foods, maybe 70, 80, 90% of your whole foods, but then you're slamming some Reese's Pieces or some Ben and Jerry's. And will those affect the markers maybe different than they'll affect your body composition or performance?
Mm-hmm. This question is and how much does it take to actually screw that up?
Yeah, a week binger on vacation, is that going to have a lasting effect on my health? Because I know it has a little effect on my composition. I ate a little poorly in LA. I came back a little bit more bloated, maybe gained a pound. Not that big of a deal for me, as I don't think I have any health issues. But as you get older or whatever, is a week binger, eating some cookies and stuff on vacay going to mess you up long term? I'd like to think not, but who knows, because I think rapid anything is more dangerous, right? Like even rapid weight loss can be dangerous on your health markers, whatever the heck that means. Blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. I've heard of aneurysms. Yeah, I think so too. Or rapid weight gain, right?
Yeah.
I imagine if you go from 200 to 250 in a couple months, chances are your body's not ready for some of that, and your blood pressure and things do go up. But how extreme are any of these measurements that we need to actually pay attention to?
Yeah, we could probably do a whole episode on aneurysms. I was actually just reading the other day about what's her name who plays Khaleesi in Game of Thrones.
Hey, what the hell? She had an aneurysm. I just read that.
She had two. She had one of them that was she had an emergency. She had a bleed.
How old is she? 35? Less?
Oh, she's less. This happened in her 20s. She was 23 when this happened.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I heard she's a big nerd.
I've heard that too, yeah.
Maybe she wants to marry me.
I don't know.
Khaleesi, you want to play some video games?
I don't know. And then someone that we both know was diagnosed with one recently. I think I may have already talked about it, but was diagnosed with an aneurysm, abdominal aneurysm, and
Scary.
then it showed up in one image, and then they went in and did other imaging, and it doesn't show up at all. So
and how many all these things are genetic or not, right? There's my family, congestive heart failure is a thing. Grandpa, probably dad, I don't know, but everybody has it. But I exercise a lot better than a lot of my family, and I eat pretty good. Am I still gonna have some heart issues, or are you just fucked?
That's an interesting question too, because I'm sure we both know, and I definitely know a few people who've had issues with congestive heart failure. It's just healthy 30-somethings.
Yeah. Well, and my grandpa lived to 86.
Yeah.
It's just the last couple of years were just probably very painful.
Yeah.
I don't know how it goes, and what blood marker or whatever health marker do I need to pay attention to for that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, we're going to pitch this to our friend, Dr. Spencer Nadolsky.
Teach me.
Right now. Our other question was this. We keep seeing recommendations about using additional salt, additional sodium for performance. And like historically, we've been told to try to reduce sodium. And then you see people saying, "Oh, use Himalayan sea salt in your water or whatever X number of times a day for increased performance." What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so that is actually a common question. You know, if I'm recommending a certain type of food, or sometimes I actually recommend like microwavable meal replacement type of, lean cuisine type of things, and this is for convenience. And people are like, "But what about the sodium?" And yeah, high sodium diets tend to be related, when they look at these epidemiological studies, related to cardiovascular disease. And it probably has to do with blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to individuals, if you don't have high blood pressure, you really have to worry about the sodium, and especially if you're active. So, like when you're really active, you're sweating, you're losing some electrolytes that way, and having that adequate sodium can be beneficial. I'm not aware of any studies that show adding additional salt to a standard kind of diet is beneficial, unless you're not getting enough in your actual diet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm unsure if adding Himalayan salt is beneficial. In fact, some people go too far and use sea salt and some of this Himalayan salt and don't get enough iodine in their diet. Iodized salt came about because people were not getting enough iodine in their diet, and they began getting goiters.
Goiters,
that was the leading cause of hypothyroidism at one point. And now they still have that issue in other, like third world and other countries. But we're starting to see some case studies pop up. In fact, I've had a few patients where all they were using was sea salt, and they had hypothyroidism, not because they had autoimmune disease like what I have. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is the leading cause of hypothyroidism in the United States. But now we're starting to see some people get hypothyroidism from an iodine deficiency, and it's because they're not using iodized salt. So anyway, that's just kind of a side point. So the reality is that probably too low of sodium is an issue. We're starting to see there's probably a sweet spot, and there's the leading experts go back and forth, and you see these new studies based on, they do these urinary studies looking at potassium and sodium, and showing that, hey, it looks like the people that live the longest aren't eating the least amount of salt or sodium. And there's probably something to that. When you decrease your salt or sodium so much, you do see some possible adverse effects. And then obviously when you increase it past a certain threshold, there can be some adverse effects as well, especially for those who are sensitive and have increased blood pressure levels to it. So on a population basis, it's hard to give a certain recommendation, because it's like, yeah, everybody should be eating less salt, and then it confuses people because, instead of focusing on probably calories, which they should be, they're thinking about sodium, and the individuals who don't have high blood pressure probably don't need to worry about it if they're eating an otherwise healthful diet, including a lot of potassium and other high nutrient types of foods, which can counteract that elevated sodium intake. So I'm more of, look at it, I like the epidemiological studies and the public health thing, but I also look at it from an individual standpoint. If somebody's relatively lean and they're active, they can handle a lot more sodium and not have adverse effects.
What about
go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. What about like Gatorade and some of these drinks out there that, their whole commercials about sodium and et cetera, et cetera. You mentioned electrolytes earlier. I think potassium, a couple others, obviously are lost when we sweat or exercise. Is it that necessary that we replenish them 10 seconds after we lose them? Or like you kind of said, for the normal person, just to get them in your diet throughout the day, plus some water might be enough?
Yeah, so unless you're doing intense exercise, 30 to 60 minutes, losing multiple pounds from sweat. If you're just a recreational weightlifter, you're not going to need Gatorade. I mean, this is where we see issues with younger kids. All they're doing is drinking Gatorade because they thought, oh, it's a sports drink, it's good for me. And,
Right.
We're seeing increased obesity, obviously, as you know. And I have to then go look, just drink water. For most of my patients, just drink water. It's these triathletes and runners, and not just a few mile run. It's more people training for marathons and really intense exercises. And also, there can be some benefit if you're thinner and you're trying to gain weight, obviously, and you're trying to replenish your glycogen, and you're working out more than once a day too, because it's not just the electrolyte; it can also be the glucose and fructose as well that can help with that. But in general, most people probably don't need to.
Yeah, I think Mike and I both tell powerlifters all the time, you don't need to do that stuff because you're not really glycogen depleting and you're not really sweating enough to matter.
Yeah,
Some of them are sweaty because they're fat, but that's a totally different story. It's really not. It's not worth the calories to drink the Gatorade.
No, absolutely not. Tastes good. I mean, some people, Propel is one. It's the calorie-free one that I generally recommend. If you need something kind of sweeter, then maybe go towards that. But otherwise, just drink water. You're going to get enough electrolytes in your food for most people.
And like you said, maybe a little Chipotle here and there, or a little microwave meal's not going to end your life if you're healthy and exercising.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I think that covers the both topics to the extent that we need to on this show. Where can people find you?
Great. So find me on Instagram, instagram.com/Dr. Nadolsky, DRNADOLSKY. And then also I'm part of the Renaissance Periodization crew. So
Cool.
Check us out at renaissanceperiodization.com.
That's a good crew, man. Hung out with Mike a bunch in LA a bunch of times. Really, really cool guys.
Good. Yeah, he's a great guy. Him and Nick are my faves. So, check us out there.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you very
You
much.
got it. Bye.
Have a great one. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. If you do, please share it with your friends. It helps us grow a lot, and we really appreciate it. Give us a rating and review. You can find me, Silent Mike with 2Ks, Instagram, Twitter, 50% Facts on Instagram. Give it a follow for all updates on the show.
I am at the Jim McD on all the social media, and we will get you next time.